I lived through every parent's worst fear. The HOA president had my son dragged from the sidewalk, bound with zip ties, and shoved into an SUV. Her excuse, she called it a community safety hold. The only thing tested that night wasn't safety. It was my ability to keep my fists down. But let me take you back to where it began. My name is Marcus Dawson. I'm a software architect, a man wired to think in logic, in systems where cause and effect are neatly connected. My world runs on clean code and quiet evenings with my wife, Carla, and our boy, Ethan. Carla, the district attorney, is the one who wrestles with chaos, the messy, unpredictable side of life. Me, I'm supposed to be the calm one, the steady hand. At least, that's the story I tell myself. But beneath that calm exterior, there's always been a storm waiting for the right spark. And today, the storm broke. It started with a ping on my phone, an automated alert from our family tracker. Ethan's location sharing had been disabled. My stomach sank like ice. He should have been on a simple 15-minute walk from robotics club, always on, always tracked. That was our rule. I called, straight to voicemail. Then came another notification, this one from Carla. Just 2 words, call me, followed by 9/11. I was in the garage, hands greasy, trying to get an old mower running. The scent of gasoline and cut grass clung to the air, but in an instant all I could smell was panic, hot and sharp. I fumbled with my phone, my thumb trembling so badly I had to redial. Carla answered on the first ring. Her voice, usually sharp, commanding, the kind that bends a courtroom, was cracked and fragile. "Marcus," she whispered. Neighbor Joe called. His camera caught it. A black SUV, no license plates, 2 men. They took Ethan. The world tilted sideways, the mower, the garage, the quiet suburban afternoon. All of it vanished, drowned out by a deafening rush in my ears. They took him, the words didn't make sense. Not here, not in this neighborhood. This was supposed to be safe. That's why we bought into a gated community of manicured lawns and faux Tuscan houses. That's why we swallowed the outrageous HOA fees. That's why we tolerated her, Karen Teagan, HOA president, clipboard in hand like a crown, the bylaws recited like gospel. She was a failed police academy recruit who treated our neighborhood like her private kingdom, and those 2 men. Carla said they wore vests labeled community enforcement. I'd seen them before, Karen's hired thugs. Not real security, not licensed, just muscle. A couple of barroom bouncers masquerading as guardians. And then it clicked hard, like a punch to the gut. Last week at the community mailbox, Karen had confronted me. Her son, Kevin, a quiet, nervous kid, a year younger than Ethan, had told her that Ethan was bullying him. She accused my boy of psychological harassment and social terrorism, the kind of words you only hear from bad crime dramas. But Ethan, he's not that kid. He's the one who spends hours tinkering with code, building robots, stopping in the street to help a turtle cross the pavement. A gentle soul. He told me Kevin needed help with a coding project, and he'd given it, that was all. I tried to reason with her, calmly, but her eyes, small, sharp, full of venom, narrowed as she leaned in. There is no misunderstanding, Mr. Dawson. There are predators in this community, and I will find them. I have a zero-tolerance policy. I thought it was just more of her unhinged theatrics. But it wasn't a warning, it was a declaration. She had orchestrated this. She had sanctioned my son's abduction. The calm voice I used to move through the world was gone, swallowed whole by rage. The wrench slipped from my hand, hitting the garage floor with a metallic clang that sounded like the breaking point of my control. "Where are you?" I growled into the phone, my own voice unrecognizable. 5 minutes out, Carla answered. Stay put, but there was no staying put. The primal part of me, the raw animal instinct that exists for a single purpose, protect my child, had taken full command. I stepped out of the garage, leaving the door yawning open behind me, and stood on the driveway, scanning the neatly trimmed street that now felt like a battlefield. They had taken my son, and they had no clue who they had just picked a fight with. The calm silence of our block felt obscene. A picture, perfect lie under the afternoon sun. Just an hour ago, Ethan had walked this very sidewalk, earbuds in, lost in some podcast about gear ratios or soldering tricks. Now he was gone, swallowed by a faceless SUV. Carla's car screeched into the driveway, her sedan barely stopping before she was out. Phone pressed to her ear, her district attorney mask was on. Calm, commanding, carved from steel, but I saw the quiver in her hand, the fear clawing just beneath her control. Beneath the prosecutor, she was still a mother. I'm on with dispatch. She clipped, striding toward me. They're pushing out a bolo, but Marcus, these guys' ghosts, unmarked vehicle, burner phones, no official trail. She extended her hand. Keys, I froze for half a beat. She snapped her fingers, twice, the DA voice. I dropped the fob into her palm. My body was already moving, stepping off the curb. Stop. She ordered, grabbing my sleeve. You don't chase shadows. You force them into the light. Open the tracker app. Link it to my dash. I hated that she was right. My muscles screamed to run, but my knees locked in place. Down the street, a leaf blower hummed. A man in a varsity hoodie looked over. Inspection again. He called, nodding toward the HOA. It's kidnapping. I snapped. The word hit him like a physical shove. He backed into his doorway, slamming it shut. Carla slid behind the wheel, buckling in. Walk me through the app, she said. Her voice was calm, but sharp as glass. I followed her breathing, 4 in, 4 out. In 2, 3, 4. The storm inside me aligned with her rhythm. She didn't have to say it. I already knew. Karen Tegan thrived in that gray no man's land, half law, half delusion, ruling by her own warped authority. Joe sent the clip. I muttered, jaw clenched. I held out my phone. The grainy video played Ethan, my lanky, gentle boy, being dragged like a criminal. 2 thick-set men moved with cold efficiency, binding his wrists and forcing his head down as they shoved him into the SUV. They weren't community enforcers, they were thugs in uniforms, predators dressed as protectors. He didn't even resist. He was too shocked, too blindsided. 1 second he was standing there, the next he was swallowed by their violence. My stomach twisted, while rising as helplessness burned through me like poison. His tracker, Carla said quickly, already racing ahead in her mind. I know. I cut in. It's dead. Either he shut it down or they killed the signal. Then we used the watch. She fired back without hesitation. Her gaze locked with mine, and for a moment it was just the two of us against the world. She was right, the smartwatch I'd insisted Ethan wear had its own GPS chip. Harder to disable. My pulse slammed against my ribs. With clumsy fingers, I opened the backup tracker app, linked directly to the emergency beacon. A tiny blue dot blinked on the screen, moving but not far. My lungs seized as I read the location. It was headed toward the lake, near the old clubhouse. That place had been left to rot for years. A half-collapsed relic from before the neighborhood's makeover, fenced off and marked for demolition. But under Karen's watch, the building had become something else. She'd wired in cameras, reinforced the doors, and slapped padlocks where no permits ever approved them. It was her fortress. I've got him. I breathed, holding the screen toward Carla. He's at the old Northwood clubhouse. She didn't hesitate. Already sliding behind the wheel, the engine roaring. Get in. I climbed into the passenger seat, my phone buzzing in my hand. Joe again. His voice was shaky, low. Marcus, I couldn't say it earlier, not with cops listening, but I know those guys. They work for Karen. All her junk's at that clubhouse, mowers, gear, everything. His words iced my blood. Confirmation. The trap was real. This was it. Karen's hidden black site. My son trapped inside a run-down storage hall, prisoner of a power. Drunk HOA president. Carla floored it out of the driveway, tires shrieking against asphalt. Logic meant nothing now. I wasn't an architect or a strategist. I was a father, a shield, a storm on the edge of breaking. On my phone, the pulsing blue dot had stopped moving, fixed in one place, flashing like a distress beacon. A target, and we were heading straight toward it. We weren't wasting time calling the local patrol to politely knock on Karen's door. Carla was already dialing someone far higher. She wasn't dealing with middlemen. She was going straight to the top. If Karen had shattered the rules of civilized order, then so had we. They had stolen him from the street. Now we were coming to take him back. The law would catch up. But we'd be there first, leading the charge. The drive to the abandoned clubhouse stretched into eternity. 10 minutes dragged like 10 hours. Every stop sign, every red light felt like the universe itself trying to hold me back from my son. Carla gripped the wheel with frightening steadiness, her face a mask of control, but the whitened knuckles betrayed the fury underneath. Her voice stayed razor-sharp as she spoke into the phone not to police dispatch, but to Judge Helen Morrison. A woman Carla had known for 2 decades, a woman with real power. I only heard Carla's side of the conversation. Precise, clipped, deadly serious. "Helen, it's Carla Dawson. I wouldn't interrupt you at home if it weren't urgent. My son Ethan has been abducted. Yes, abducted, at the very least, unlawful restraint. We have video GPS proof. He being held right now, against his will, in an unlicensed detention site. Private contractors, masquerading as authority under the banner of our HOA. Carla stopped to listen, her eyes locked on the road, her voice dropped lower. The one behind it is Karen Teagan. We've had prior harassment issues, Carla continued, her tone crisp, unyielding. Yes, I have clear probable cause to believe he's in immediate danger. I need an emergency telephonic warrant. Full entry, search, and seizure covering the Northwood Clubhouse at 1 Old Lake Road. And I want the county sheriff's tactical unit executing it, not local PD. Note this in the affidavit. Local police contract directly with HOA vendors. Conflict of interest. In that moment, Carla wasn't my wife. She wasn't just a mother. She was a weapon forged in the furnace of the legal system, and she was taking dead aim at Karen Teagan. While Carla mobilized the cavalry, my mind spun backward through every petty encounter I'd ever had with Karen. A slideshow of spite and arrogance. I thought of the first time she came to our door 5 years earlier, binder in one hand, tape measure in the other. She informed me, with icy satisfaction, that our mailbox sat a 1/4 inch below regulation height. A 1/4 inch. I'd laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Her expression was as joyless as a locked vault. She had no real power, not then. She was a volunteer board president, nothing more, but she carried herself like a base commander. Everyone knew about her failed attempt to join the police academy. She didn't wash out for fitness or grades. It was the psychological evaluation. Rumors swirled that the report used words like unstable, narcissistic, and pathological need for control. Denied a badge and a gun, Karen invented her own empire. Our HOA became her kingdom, and her so-called community enforcement team was her crown jewel. 2 men with murky pasts paid outrageous sums out of HOA dues, patrolling in a black SUV outfitted with illegal amber flashers. They wrote citations for trash bins left out too long, for toys left in front yards. They menaced teenagers. They answered only to her. At the monthly board meetings, Karen didn't preside, she ruled. It wasn't neighborhood governance. It was theater, a courtroom drama where she played judge, jury, and executioner. I remembered the Hendersons, a quiet family who just wanted to build a treehouse for their daughter. Karen had humiliated them in front of the entire community, spouting May, dumped legal jargon about aerial sightline violations and unapproved vertical construction. She wielded the HOA bylaws like holy scripture, positioning herself as their self-appointed high priestess. The board always fell in line, a cluster of timid retirees and we, quilled yes men, too afraid to stand against her. Karen ruled through intimidation, and it worked. Residents paid their fines, painted their homes the approved shade of beige, and kept their heads low. But now she had taken it further, from mailboxes and treehouses to kidnapping. My son had become just another pawn in her deranged game of control. The bullying claim against Ethan, nothing but a flimsy excuse. Kevin, Her fragile, nervous boy wasn't the victim. He was the casualty of her suffocating parenting. I had no doubt she'd twisted some harmless interaction into a malicious narrative that justified her obsession, that she was the last barrier standing against disorder. On my phone, the blinking blue dot glowed like a lone star in the darkness, our compass, our only lead. We turned down Old Lake Road, the smooth pavement crumbling into a cracked, weed-choked path. Ahead, the old clubhouse rose like a shadowed carcass, a hulking silhouette against the twilight. Its paint peeled in strips, its windows boarded, but one single bulb glowed above a side door, and next to it sat a black SUV. "No plates, they're here," I whispered. Carla ended her call, her voice cutting like steel. "The warrant's signed. Sheriff's emergency response team is 10 minutes out. Miller's squad was already staging nearby. The substation is only 4 miles down County 12. This is real. Judge Morrison." Issued it telephonically and transmitted the PDF to Miller's team for confirmation. She turned to me, her eyes locking mine. "We are not going in there alone, Marcus. We wait for the professionals." I nodded, but inside me, every nerve screamed to storm that door, to rip the place apart until I had Ethan in my arms. The storm inside me was now a Category 5 hurricane, clawing for release, and waiting was its own hell. 10 minutes can stretch into an eternity when your child is trapped behind a locked door with predators. We cut the engine and parked down the road, out of sight. The night pressed in heavy around us. The only sounds were the chirping of crickets and the pounding drum of my own heartbeat. Carla was back on the phone, speaking in clipped tones to the sheriff's tactical commander. She mapped the clubhouse layout from memory, already transmitting the GPS pin and Joe's video clip to Miller's team. They were inbound, lights dark, dash cams running 10 minutes out. I couldn't stop staring at that building. My mind spun through every nightmare scenario. What were they doing to Ethan? Was he terrified? Was he hurt? The helplessness gnawed at me until it became physical pain. My fists clenched and released against my thighs, over and over, like I was caged. A memory clawed its way in. Ethan at 6 years old, huddled in a blanket fort when a thunderstorm ripped the sky open above us. I'd crawled inside with him, a flashlight clenched between my teeth, and taught him our thunder code. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. It meant, I'm right here. We practiced it everywhere, the wall, the floor, even the underside of the coffee table until he giggled. Later that night, when the ice maker clattered at 2 a.m., he pounded 3 times into the drywall, I knocked back through my bedroom wall. It wasn't courage, it was a promise, a rhythm of safety. Now, sitting in the car outside that dark fortress, every muscle in my body screamed to break the rhythm, to kick the door down and take him back with my bare hands. My hand gripped the door handle, and I forced myself to wait for the knocks. Then my phone lit up, not with a call. Not with a text, with an email notification. Emergency HOA board meeting. Urgent matter of community security. Scheduled for right now, Karen was broadcasting live from inside that building. Headlights swept across the trees, then cut out. A black golf cart rolled onto the path, one of Karen's hired enforcers at the wheel. A flashlight beam slashed through the ditch. Carla shoved my head down, and we slid low in our seats until the light moved past. The cart idled, engine humming, listening. Off to the left, a crackle of static cut through the night. Neighbor Joe's voice came through his battered ham radio. "Breaker 1, this the chili cook-off, over." The cart rattled off, irritated. Carla finally let out a breath. "We're not heroes tonight," she murmured. "We're careful." She popped open the glove box and pressed Ethan's spare watch band into my hand. 3 SOS taps if you hear him. He knows the code. I quickly typed our family phrase knock 3 into the app. 10 endless seconds, nothing, then my phone buzzed, watch ACK, and on Karen's live board feed, a faint rattle bled through her laptop mic. One of the members squinted. What was that? Pipes, Karen snapped, dismissing it, but I felt it in my chest. That rhythm, my boy was alive waiting, signaling, holding out for me. I tapped join. Karen's face filled the screen, jaw rigid, eyes glowing with authority. Around her, the little board, member squares flickered to life. Frank Henderson leaned too close to his webcam, a cat's tail swiping across his lens. Madam President, he began, Article 11 covers storm damage and fallen trees, not detaining children. Karen's lips curved into a smile that never reached her eyes. Frank, you lack the training to evaluate threats. A new square popped in Treasurer Valdez, breathless. I never signed off on detentions, Karen, and the liability, our insurance, our mandate is clear. She cut him off, voice sharp. Community enforcement holds the subject until I approve a corrective plan. You mean a kid. Frank shot back, stronger now. You're talking about a child. Karen looked directly into the camera like it was her reflection. Words matter. He is a subject presenting an ongoing risk. From another box, someone's voice piped up, You're not muted. Karen blinked, then forced out a brittle laugh. Good, let the record show. I hit screen record. Carla leaned close, whispering, perfect. She just buried herself. I stayed silent, letting the footage roll as Karen kept monologuing, building our evidence with every word. She's unhinged, Carla whispered, eyes locked on my phone screen. She's built her own private regime laws, cells, even a processing center. This wasn't panic. This wasn't a slip. It was deliberate. Step by step, she'd engineered this machine, waiting for the day she could use it, and Ethan was her proof of concept. The ground began to tremble before the sound reached us. A deep, steady pulse growing heavier by the second. Then the glare came, one set of headlights, then another, then more. Not the soft approach of family cars, but the harsh, cutting beams of tactical vehicles. The sheriff's emergency team had arrived. A convoy of armored trucks and cruisers swept in silently, killing their lights as they closed the distance. The so-called trial unfolding on my phone was about to collide with the real rule of law. Karen's voice droned on about bylaws and procedures, completely unaware that her empire was seconds from collapse. The sight of the tactical column was like watching a shadowed dance of precision. Black trucks slid into place, doors swung open, and officers in full gear poured out, moving with practiced ease. Compared to them, Karen's community enforcers were nothing more than kids clumsily playing soldier. At the center stood their leader, Sergeant Miller, broad, shouldered, calm, radiating quiet authority. He strode toward our car with purpose. Carla stepped out to meet him. She wasn't just a mother anymore, she was the attorney, steady and unshaken. She passed him the tablet, warrant pulled up and signed. Sergeant, she said, voice sharp, formal. Your subject is Karen Teagan, president of the HOA. She's currently inside, broadcasting a video conference, likely from a utility room on the east wing. My son, Ethan Dawson, age 14, is being unlawfully held somewhere on the premises. He's the priority. Nothing else matters. Get my boy out safe. Miller gave a curt nod, his eyes sweeping the building with the practiced calm of a man who had walked into hostile walls before. Perimeter first, then we call her out. If she refuses, his voice dropped, steady but final, we go in. My stomach clenched tight. Karen Teagan, the woman who once filibustered a board meeting for half an hour over the spacing of seasonal wreaths, surrendering peacefully. Not a chance, yielding wasn't in her blood. Every nerve in me screamed this was about to go sideways. Carla, though Carla was already 3 moves ahead, while black, clad deputies fanned out, rifles angled, forming a steel cordon around the clubhouse, she was dialing. Not a judge this time, not law enforcement, a journalist. Mark, it's Carla Dawson. She murmured into the phone. Her voice had shifted, controlled, deliberate, as if she were already dictating headlines. I've got an exclusive, but you have to move now. Send a crew to 1 Old Lake Road. Stage at the church lot 2 blocks west. Do not approach until cleared. Listen carefully. An HOA president has set up a rogue security force and has detained a minor. Yes, my son. The sheriff's ERT is en route with a warrant. She was striking the match, but guiding the fire. Karen would frame herself as the martyr, the neighborhood savior crushed by big government. Carla was making sure the truth burned hotter and faster. The tactical line was in place when the first thunderclap shattered the stillness. A bullhorn, sharp and commanding, cutting through the night air. "This is the county sheriff's office. We have a warrant to search this facility. Karen Teagan, you are ordered to exit immediately with your hands visible." The sound echoed against the clubhouse walls, rattling windows, leaving no corner untouched. On my phone screen, the live board meeting flickered. Karen froze, head snapping toward the sound, her eyes widening. Disbelief gave way to fury in a heartbeat. What was that? One of the board members whispered. Karen's face hardened like stone. When she spoke, her voice trembled, not with fear but rage. "It appears we are under unlawful assault," she declared. "Government intrusion. This is intimidation of a private community. Do not panic. I am in control. Our security personnel are in position." The words had barely left her mouth when the clubhouse side door banged open. Karen's two hired enforcers, the same clowns who had dragged Ethan away, stepped out into the night. They strutted forward in knockoff tactical vests, gripping pepper, ball launchers that had been dressed up with rails and fake magazines to mimic real rifles. They puffed their chests, desperate to look like warriors. If my son's life wasn't on the line, the sight would have been laughable. "You're trespassing on private property," one of them shouted, his voice wobbling with nerves. "You have no legal authority here." Sergeant Miller's response cracked back through the bullhorn, cool and unshakable. "Put the weapons down, now. You are obstructing the execution of a lawful warrant." The standoff stretched, every second waited. The two men glanced at each other, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. These weren't fighters. They were neighborhood bullies used to scaring old men about mailbox paint. Now they stood frozen before a dozen trained deputies in full tactical gear. Then came Karen's shrill command from inside the clubhouse. "Do not surrender. Defend this property. That's an order." It was all the encouragement they needed. One fool lifted his fake rifle. The worst, most predictable mistake imaginable. In a blink, the night detonated. A flashbang burst a searing light, a bone-shaking boom that swallowed everything. The two men collapsed like rag dolls, rolling on the ground, clutching at their ears in blind confusion. Deputies swarmed, swift and merciless, tearing the fake rifles from their hands and slapping cuffs on their wrists before they could even groan. "Path is clear." Miller's hand went up, his voice cut through like steel. "Breach, breach, breach." The ram smashed against the side door, wood splintering into shards. A flood of deputies surged through the opening. 2 knocks, one voice said from inside, another answered with 3 short taps. "Hallway right clear." Utility closet barricaded, child's voice behind it. My body surged forward, but Miller's arm shot out across my chest. "Let us do our job, Dad." I froze, heart pounding, then I heard it. 3 gentle taps, a pause, then 3 more. Our old signal, the one Ethan used to tap during thunderstorms when he was small and afraid. "That's him," I gasped. "That's my boy. Copy," came the steady reply. Confirmed contact. Child responsive. Metal screamed as a pry bar bit into hinges. A door screeched open. Voices called out, "Hands, hands, you're safe, buddy. Don't move." On my phone screen, Karen's voice still ranted through the meeting feed, shrill and furious about authority, mandates, sovereignty. But her words were swallowed whole by the cadence of a real rescue. Room secure, 1 juvenile located, no visible injuries.